So for your notes for today, it's just going to be primarily off of delta math, okay? So what I'm going to do is, and the reason I'm doing this is because we're going to be looking a lot at graphs, and it's just easier to not have to redraw all those graphs for you guys, especially. So in this particular piecewise function, remember a piecewise function means it's in pieces. The function looks like this piece in the domain from negative infinity to negative 1. And then right at negative 1, it has this little filled in number here. And then in the domain from negative 1 to positive 2, exclusive of both ends, it looks like this horizontal line. So it's in pieces. And we just want to evaluate this function to find f of 2. F of 2 means for an input of 2, what is the output? So I come over here for an input of 2. The output is actually an open circle right here, which means that function is undefined at that point. So that function is undefined because there is no output. See, notice the vertical line here, okay? All right, let's try a bunch of these here. So here's another piecewise function. We want to find f of 9. So for an input of 9, this is what we look on the x-axis. And for an input of 9, there is, again, no output over here. So the function is, again, undefined for f of 9. All right, now this function, we want to find f of 1. 1 is our input. So I'll go over to 1, and I want to see where does it hit the function. And I'm giving the y value. The y value is negative 3. So f of 1 is equal to negative 3. All right, if anybody has any questions on these, please just shout them out. Now this one is interesting. We want to find f of negative 2. This function looks just like this diagonal line here all the way, except for an input of negative 2. The output is down here. And then it looks like the straight line. So if I'm finding f of negative 2, I go to negative 2. This is not the answer. The answer is down here at negative 5. So f of negative 2 is equal to negative 5. All right, now this discontinuous piecewise function has a big gap in it here. So if I was asked to find f of 1, of positive 1, not negative 1, if I found f of positive 1, that would be undefined. But this is asking me to find f of negative 1. So for an input of negative 1, I do, because this is a filled in circle, I have an output of 4. So f of negative 1 is equal to 4. All right, are there any questions on any of those? Because I'm going to then look at it in terms of the equation or algebraically in just a second. Yes, we had the question in the class here. If it asked for f of 6 means for an input of 6, the output would be 0. So f of 6 is equal to 0. Good question. F of 10 is equal to negative 4. Okay, f of, let's see, negative 4 would be equal to 7. All right, any other questions? All right, well now, let's say we are given this piecewise function, but we're not given the graph, we're given it as an equation. Well, remember, for the equation, this stuff over here on the right, those are the domain restrictions, or where the graph looks a certain way. This graph looks like x minus 6, but only for input values less than 0. And then this graph is a horizontal line at 3, but only for x equal to 0. So that actually is just going to be one dot. And then this graph looks like the line 6x minus 9, but only for x values greater than 0. So when we're trying to find f of 0, we have to first look over here, like where do we plug that in? This tells us where, and then this tells us what to plug it into. So f of 0, for an input of 0, my output is 3. So f of 0 is equal to 3. For the next one, we're trying to find f of 8. So I look over here, well, 8 is bigger than 3. So that means that for an input of 8, my output is -3. So again, this part tells me where, and this part tells me my output. So f of 8 is equal to -3. F of 6. Well, that means I'm going to plug it in here because 6 is greater than 5. So I'm plugging the 6 in for x, and I get -6 as my output. To find f of 5, well, when x equals 5, my output is -3. All right, f of -2. Now this one, be careful of the equal sign, because I see this -2 here, but that's only for x greater than -2. When x is less than or equal to -2, I have to plug it into the top. So to find f of -2, I'm plugging it into the top. I'm plugging a -2 in for x here. So 3 times -2 plus 6 would be equal to 0. All right, are there any questions on that?